Hope I get the chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wise.
Yo, I thought about doing Mam the Golden Dun, as you know, Mam the Golden Dick as I like to call it. I figure and one of Christopher Lee. That being, as I'm talking about vampires, why not the original of Christopher Lee's, I should say, when he made his first appearance, Horrors of Dracula. That's right, Horrors of Dracula. Shot in 1958, The Horrors of Dracula. It's a good one. After the success of Hammer House with Frankenstein, what was technically a remake of the classic Universal monster films. Now, as we all know, Frankenstein was a sympathetic monster, but as Hammer took over, they made it how it originally was going to be, where they made Frankenstein more of a fucking monster. As we all know, Christopher Lee starred in the iconic Frankenstein, that being The Curse of Frankenstein in 1957, and Peter Cushing played the man himself, Frankenstein. But 1 year after the success of Hammer House, they decided why not toss in and do a remake of the 1931 starring Ben Bedosi's Dracula. They decided to make it their own though and called it The Horrors of Dracula, starring Christopher Lee as his second role, playing the role of Dracula. Peter Cushing was Van Helsing, and the rest of the cast we will know. It's not a bad one, and it's definitely your old school type of horror film. And I love the fact that it was the first time you ever got to see Dracula in Technicolor. People would say, well, Christopher Lee was the second. This is the bit where I have to say no. People seem to forget that in 1922 there was Naatu Vaatu. And then in 1931, when the Universal monster films were coming out, there was Ben Bedos there. So you could say that Christopher Lee is your third Dracula. Not bad, and he does make his first opening. I do love the opening where you've got blood dripping on the coffin and you get the idea it's a vampire bat. You don't see a lot of blood and you don't see the stake going in the art because of the rating and because of the era of the time. But it's definitely your old school type of vampire film. You get one actor you might remember, that being the butler in the Batman films. Been a lot of films and this would have been one of his first outings. You start off with one guy who wants to kill Dracula, goes undercover. So I'm talking on a Toki bar. I had one before. And he goes to the Castle of Fania. He meets Dracula and he has his few lines. Now this is the bit where I'll have a beat at Christopher Lee. Because don't get me wrong, I do like Christopher Lee as Dracula. You know, I like him. But all in all, he says a few lines, he says it plain, doesn't get like, he tries to make it his own. But I think Hammer House fucked him. They fucked him because they dipped him stupid lines or they barely dipped him anything to do. And it's kind of the same really, it was a waste of Christopher Lee's science. Because it's not fair said and done. Christopher Lee wanted it to be more like the book, you know, the book of Dracula. But Hammer House wanted to make him more nasty, slapping women and all this, which was the same. If they would have given Christopher Lee the rights, it would have been more iconic and it would have been more. Because there's bits in it where if you remember Fright Night, the vampire in Fright Night, the original one, the 85 one, I'd loved him to be more like that. Like Fantello, that's what did Dracula film. Fantello's Dracula. Smooth, a woman Geneva, a lover, rather than how they portrayed him in the 58 Dracula and then onwards with Christopher Lee's Draculas. But it's still not a bad one, it's not a bad role. You got this woman, you think he's going to twist to die, and she has fangs, aims to bite him, you get it, she's a fucking vampire. But it's not bad. He gets turned, as you know, and that is then when you get Peter Cushing. I love Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, I meant to say. I love him as Van Helsing. There's a bit of it where it makes me wonder what it would have been like had he would have played Peter Vincent I mean, there was reasons when Fright Night come out, which I mentioned, he was either too old or he just wasn't interested. But there's bits of it now, even though I do like robbing me doll. If there's ever a time you can go into an autological universe, from else the fucking word right, a potomical, fuck it, right? I would love to see what it would have been like had Peter Tussin would have played Peter Vincent. What is he doing? I mean, I do like him as Van Helsing. Starts off he's going to the pub, not far from Castlevania. You know, you've got the people working in the pub and they're basically tipping fucking Van Helsing shit. It's a tired place, you know, fuck off. There's also like they say that, but they might as fucking well do. But yeah, the guy gets killed, who's the brother of our friend. He's trying to convince, you know, fuck it, I got him the butler from Batman. He's trying to convince the butler from Batman. And basically he tells Van Helsing also to fuck off. All the way through it, you know, he's a vampire killer. You know, diet, stakes in the heart, tosses and all this. Now, I do admit that Christopher Lee does play Dracula a bit more like a bastard. Because the dude, right, who was engaged to the one who was going to kill Dracula, but then he got turned into a vampire, leaving Van Helsing to kill him. Because he wanted to, it was a sacrifice, it was a mercy killing because he got turned. He only comes into her bedroom, no hanky panker, let's not forget it's 1958. He goes in her bedroom and he turns the woman who was engaged to her, what would have been a hero, he turns her into a vampire. But all said and done, the guy did die by stupidity more than Dracula. Because what does he do? What does he do? He goes and stakes the fucking woman. There's Dracula, right, in his coffin. There's the woman there. There's Dracula somewhere there. He stakes the fucking woman. He stakes the woman. He's a dead vampire, right? Fuck the woman. Well, not in a sexual way. He should have staked Dracula first. But it would have been the end of the fucking film. So he stakes the woman. There's a fuck up there, though. You see this elderly woman, by the age that I don't know. And you do see her chest breathing up and down. She's supposed to be dead, and you see her fucking breathing. Little fuck up. You know what I mean? You could easily just pause the camera, but, you know, when it's there, I'll let it fly past me like a fucking bat in the night. There's a bit in it, though, where the dude, like I say, he's got turned into a vampire, and Van Helsing puts a cross on her forehead as she's screaming. And it kind of reminds me of that. Of fucking Fright Night. And I'm thinking, when they did Fright Night, did they see this film? It's probably been done in a lot of other vampire films, but they must have seen the Fright Night there, must have seen the Orders of Dracula, because it's just so fucking similar. He puts a cross on her forehead, he's going steaming like you've already got burnt, and you've got the burn mark of the cross, and again this decided fuck it, let's kill her. Straight, so you don't see it again. Error, different time, censorship. But you got the idea. She's been straight. There's a time you got Alfred, as I like to call him. He's woman. Attack her again. Turns her. Goes in the bedroom. No anti-banker. Different at a time. Turns her into a vampire. And I do love the scene where the time they use blood. They use Alfred's blood into hers. Kind of reminds me of Near Dawn and how that was done. Dracula gets on anyway, because he's a badass. Tries to bury her fucking live, but shows that he's an evil bastard. But lucky enough, they come up in the nick of time. Van Helsing chases our bad guy, that being Christopher Lee as Dracula. They have a fight. Dracula chokes him out. Van Helsing puts a fakie on, wakes up, knocks fucking Dracula on his ass. Pulls the curtains, sun fucking melts him, end of fucking movie. into 10 years later when they made Dracula, Prince of Darkness. It's not a bad film, it's your typical old school type of film, and I do like some of the Hammer films. That's the era when I like Hammer House. Before they started showing nudity and tits and ass and they started to do shit like that. This is when Hammer was old school, didn't get away with that. You couldn't show a lot of blood, even though you got the sound effects of the stake going in the heart. It's not a bad thing for what it is, you know what I mean? I like that. It's an old school type of fucking vampire film, you know. I'm not going in for special effects because it was a different era. I didn't have all that special effects and probably didn't have a budget. Now I do know that the scene where the sun melts Christopher Lee as Dracula, there was a lot more censored down, there was a lot more gore in it, but you know, for the era they're trying to cut it down a bit. But again, Honest of Dracula from 1958. It's not a bad one, it's your old school type of vampire film. It's a classic, what else can I fucking say? So for that, because I love it and I'm getting hard over it, I'll suck it off. I'll give it a 20-star rating. That's how much I've got a boner for fucking Dracula. And I do like Christopher Lee. I just think it was a fucking shame that Hammer House didn't leave him to it and make him more like the book, or make it a bit like Fight Night where he's smooth and he's like this, kissing a beautiful woman's hand before taking a bite without being dirty minded. I just wish they would have done that, because I can understand why Christopher Lee in the later Dracula film said fuck it, I'm going to do Man the Doldrin done and do other films in other film career in my later days. But in that era that was bitty good, it was bitty awesome, and it was definitely the making of Hammer House, and it's the making of my vampire films. I might one day do some of the Hammer Houses and some of the classic Universal monster films, because I like the oldie oldies, you remember me saying that? Other than that, I'm now going to take a bite, and I'll see you later.